Yukon Striker, a B&M dive coaster, is one of the 18 different coasters that you're going to find at Canada's Wonderland. And I gotta say, 2019 seems like forever ago, because that was the year that Yukon Striker made its debut, which has us all wondering, when is the next major coaster coming? And good news for you is I'm going to share when I expect to see the park open up their next major coaster, as well as where Canada's Wonderland can place the ride, and I'm even going to share with you which type of roller coaster I think it could be. Now here's a staggering fact about Canada's Wonderland, and that is, it is the most visited seasonal park here in North America. Each year, around 4 million people visit Canada's Wonderland, and it's crazy to think that the park only has 3 coasters that offer good capacity, and those are Leviathan, Yukon Striker, and Behemoth. I think it's safe to say that Canada's Wonderland offers a very top-heavy lineup, because outside of the big 3, the next best coaster is going to be the Vortex, an aero-suspended coaster, and that's no shame on that ride because Vortex is phenomenal. But the park offers some very low-capacity coasters like Flight Deck, the Bat, and Time Warp. Welcome to Theme Park Predictions and More. My name is Brandon, and I'm really glad that you're letting me share with you my predictions for this awesome park that is located just north of Toronto. And as you can see here, Canada's Wonderland is really spread out. This park is massive, and that means it also has a ton of locations that the park could potentially build their next major coaster. But I'm going to share with you 3 locations with pros and cons that I think make the most sense for the park's next coaster. And for the first location, let's head to the back of the park. And while all you can see is really trees here, there really is a rapids ride called Whitewater Canyon that runs through this area of the park. So what I envision is something just like what Kings Island did with Mystic Timbers, is adding a roller coaster that kind of runs on top of this ride, as well as maybe in the back areas of the park. As you can see here, I'm highlighting this whole entire area. That way you can see just how large it is and where the park could actually extend the layout if they really wanted to. Again, it all depends on what type of roller coaster and how large Canada's Wonderland wanted this new ride to be. And I gotta take a quick second to give a huge shout out to my subscriber Quentin, and I actually met him at Carowinds. But Canada's Wonderland is his home park, so I reached out to him since he always shares some very intriguing ideas with us in the comments of every video of mine, and I wanted to see where he thinks Canada's Wonderland would add their next major coaster. And the first location that he shared is the Whitewater Canyon area of the park. But let's talk about the pros and cons with this location. First up is the pros. What I really like about this location is that the park is going to add yet another major coaster towards the back of the park to really spread out the crowds. And currently, Canada's Wonderland does not offer any roller coasters that kind of travel through the woods. I would love to see a roller coaster that offers really good night rides at Canada's Wonderland. Now the cons with this location is obviously going to be the tree removal, because they're going to have to wipe out a ton of trees here to fit a roller coaster in. Now real quick, if you're planning on visiting Canada's Wonderland, then you have to check out my insider guide for exploring the park. You're going to save a lot of time, money, as well as have a much better experience once you watch this must-see video. For my next location, we head over next to Leviathan, and it's time to say goodbye to the old go-karts. And I believe they're still in operation, but I really don't see it being that way for too much longer. This location, as you can see here, is massive. I mean, really, the park could have this new roller coaster intertwined with the supports of Leviathan if they really wanted to. So in my opinion, the possibilities of a coaster in this location are pretty much endless. Now for the pros of this location, if the park would decide to build a ride here, all they would have to do essentially is rip up the concrete from the go-kart track, because there's very little trees here, so they're not going to have to remove a bunch of trees to make a coaster fit in this location. Another pro would be adding a new roller coaster without removing an existing one. Now for the cons. This area is already pretty congested with Drop Tower as well as Leviathan right across from each other, and adding a new roller coaster kind of in that mix is really going to create a very crowded pathway, so I really don't like that. But for a new coaster, I think we can all sacrifice that. and for my last location. And if you have watched other videos of mine, you know then my eyes are on Time Warp and Flight Deck. This location is massive, and if the park would remove both of these coasters that all they offer is headaches, not even an enjoyable ride experience, then Canada's Wonderland is looking at a massive area. Now what's intriguing about this location is that I believe the park is no longer using their outdoor amphitheater. So could the park decide to remove it altogether? But let's talk the pros. Now obviously the size of this location is a major pro. Another pro is whatever type of roller coaster that opens up on this location, it's really going to dominate the skyline because the parking lot is located right up against it. So I really think visually this location will be the best for a new coaster. Another pro is you remove two crappy coasters and replace it with a high capacity, much better coaster. And as for the cons, the only con I have is that there's not a new coaster that's built in this area yet, and we still get to ride Time Warp and Flight Deck come 2023. That's also the year the park is opening their new family roller coaster that was a shock to everyone because I don't think anyone expected Canada's Wonderland to announce a new coaster come 2023. So it's obvious that Canada's Wonderland desperately needs another high capacity coaster. For example, there are a few Saturdays each year that Canada's Wonderland gets over 50,000 people. That's a ton of people with a lot of low capacity coasters. So I think a safe bet is 2025, but I could also very well see it be pushed back to 2026. So now that we have the locations covered, as well as when it could open, let's talk about potential coaster types. And I'm going to share with you 3 different coaster types with a percentage for each one. That way you kind of see exactly where my mind's leaning as far as their next coaster coming to Canada's Wonderland. With the 15% chance of happening, I'm going to say a B&M invert along the same size as Banshee could open up as Canada's Wonderland's next roller coaster. Now again, as far as location goes, I really feel as if the area that's located in the front of the park where Flight Deck and Time Warp stand will be the area for the next coaster. I mean, it just makes so much sense for Canada's Wonderland to utilize this front area of the park. And with how successful Banshee's been for Kings Island, I mean, you would think that Cedar Fair would like to duplicate it with their most visited seasonal park. Sticking with B&M for my next prediction, with a 25% chance of happening, I could see a massive B&M wing coaster be built in this area as well. Now also what I really like about this location is it gives Canada's Wonderland the perfect opportunity to redo its front entrance and possibly have this new roller coaster interact with it in some way. But a ride along the same size of course as Gatekeeper really makes a lot of sense because it's going to be high capacity, feature a ton of inversions, as well as offer a ride experience that Canadians aren't used to since all the other wing coasters are located overseas or in America. So marketing wise, I really feel as if a B&M wing coaster makes the most sense as far as the next coaster, especially if the roller coaster offers a launch, because Canada's Wonderland desperately needs a modern launch coaster. And with that said, with a 60% chance of happening, I predict the next roller coaster coming to Canada's Wonderland will be a multi-launch coaster either coming from Vekoma, Intamin, or Mach. And for me, I would really like to see a Mach Extreme Spinner open up here. There's just so many things that these coasters can do, and we also know that Cedar Fair loves working with Mach, so I really feel like that's the best fit. But I would love to see a new Intamin multi-launch or even Vekoma for that matter. And what I really like about this type of coaster is that this type does so much, meaning you can offer inversions, airtime hills, crazy twists and turns, and so much more. So I really feel as if this would be the best fit, a new multi-launch coaster, maybe 150 to 175 feet tall, who knows, but regardless, this type of roller coaster would look amazing in this area of the park, and that is why I'm giving it a 60% chance that Canada's Wonderland will be opening a multi-launch coaster of some type as their next roller coaster. So now that you know all of my predictions about Canada's Wonderland and their next coaster, it's time for you to tell me yours. Where, when, and what type. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to smile today, think positive, and keep riding coasters.